David, thanks for being with us and explaining this further. Now, I do understand both sides of this, how such a policy can be constructive, but mandating such a policy seems to go against the entire point here. Trying to make something that is inherently political, apolitical, how are you not creating a new kind of political culture with this?
This is a political decision, if you will. The decision is that these kinds of discussions are really difficult, and you should continue to have them, just not in our workspaces. Take those decisions and conversations to other channels, set something up on Signal, on WhatsApp, continue the conversation on Twitter or Facebook. There are a million ways you can have these discussions about what's going on in society and the politics of it. It doesn't have to be where we do our work. And in fact, when you do have it at work, you very quickly create these very tense moments when you have, as we do, 57 employees who don't all share politics on everything. Why would we rub that against each other, those edges against each other, create those sparks that are unlikely to resolve anything when these issues are not related to what we actually do at work? So that's the decision that we've made, that we've asked employees to move those conversations to other channels, their own channels, social media, wherever they engage with it. But the workspaces that we use to create the products that we do, we're going to say, do you know what? We're not going to have those conversations here.
I understand you guys didn't have a great experience with this, but some would argue that they can be very constructive in highlighting diversity and equality. But David, I do want to talk about the timing of this. This morning, you did respond to Casey Newton's piece in The Verge. It revealed that this new policy came less than 2 weeks after HR complaints were filed about you. I appreciate that you gave more details, but your post didn't address the connection and the timing between the complaints and the policy. So can you understand how this policy looks like it was perhaps in response to those complaints?
It was a response to part of the thread that brought these things on, that this was another example after several this year of contentious, acrimonious public debates made on company stages where the entire company is involved that turned out really poorly. And this was another example of that. And we sat back and thought, do you know what? Why are we doing this? What are we resolving with these debates when employees end up hurling words at each other in a discussion forum where the CEO then has to step in and say, okay, we can't continue this on? These discussions are very difficult. People have very different points of view on it. And that is good and it's fair. And you should continue to have those discussions. They just don't have to happen at the workspaces. If you were doing this in an office, I think it would be much clearer that if you go out to lunch with your coworkers, you can discuss politics, you can discuss all sorts of things. It's sort of at work, but it's away from work. If you spin around on your office chair in an open office and start these conversations in such a way that pulls in the entire company, I think most people would see, like, why are we doing this? Why are we sitting in the office at large having these difficult conversations about societal politics and sparks are flying left and right? Is this an appropriate use of the office?
And David, here's the part that I don't get. Like, if this were about voting laws or who you voted for president or things like that, makes more sense to me. Yes, maybe the workplace isn't the place to have those conversations, but so much of what seems to have sparked this at Basecamp is about your own policies and about corporate culture. And it seems like this has the potential to have a chilling effect on employees talking about how you treat people who are different from the mainstream, even within Basecamp. That's different from talking politics. That's not politics. That's Basecamp culture. Are you risking actually tamping down important cultural conversations about Basecamp just because they're uncomfortable for you?
I hope not. These things should always be addressable. The culture of Basecamp, how we treat employees, the policies and practices that we have, these are all absolutely fair game for discussion. There are forums to have those discussions. We have a head of people ops who lead the initiatives that we do on that. Not all of those discussions necessarily need to happen with the entire company. Some of them can, and that is all good and fine. That's not the issues that brought this on. The particular thread that I discussed this morning was one where we spiraled from a discussion that was related to one thing to, like, in all the ways this could connect to genocide, or it's related to colonial atrocities or other things that were unrelated to the merits of the initial issue. And it's when we go in those directions that we don't end up somewhere good. But employees should always have the right to question any policy that affects them at work. And those kinds of politics, if you will, were specifically carved out from the change in our etiquette on how to do this.